Did Joe Biden cause the migrant crisis? You won't really know until you understand these three policies that Joe Biden had his hand in. My name is Tim Black, and what we're going to do today, we're going to go over this concept of what caused the migrant crisis. Is it something that we can really pinpoint? Or is it something that just Republicans are throwing against the wall, making it stick for election time? This is important to figure out. On this channel, we're not trying to add to the sensationalism around the migrant crisis. What we're trying to do is get to the meat and bones of the matter and examine it and let viewers decide for themselves. Is this a true crisis or is this something else? Let's solve the first part of this real quick. Yes, there is a migrant crisis. We know it's a crisis because cities and states all across the country are filing emergency orders. They can't handle the influx of migrants that are coming into their cities and states. We're not just talking about border states. Sure, we got El Paso, Texas. We got Florida, we got Arizona. But we also have states like Massachusetts. We also have cities like Denver, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois. These states are also seeking emergency support from the federal government due to the influx of migrants in their areas. New York alone is getting up to 1,000 migrants a day sent from other states, border states. And when we talk about the migrant crisis situation, we got to recognize that we're talking about actual people's lives that are being affected. There's three policies that were implemented by Joe Biden's administration that critics say added to the migrant crisis that we face today. In no particular order, let's start with one. Catch and release. The catch and release, the term, comes from fishermen, recreational fishermen, anglers who catch fish, and for whatever reason, maybe sometimes it's the requirements of the season, requirements of the actual catch, that they have to put it back in the water. They can't take it home. Now, some people don't like the term catch and release because it is derived from fishing. They say you can't equate human beings with fish. But due to the accuracy that we want to have in this program, we're going to use the term catch and release because it describes exactly the process in which we are scrutinizing. So what they do is, if you're crossing the border illegally, you're not going through the asylum process, you are crossing the border illegally. When the police catch you, if there was a zero tolerance policy, you would be detained and sent to jail. You broke a law within the confines, the territory of the United States, a United States law, and you're being sent to jail for breaking that law. Catch and release, so they would pick you up, process you, and send you on your way. Now, Joe Biden is accused of practicing this policy. Is it true? Does the Joe Biden administration, Department of Homeland Security, under the auspices, working under the rule of Joe Biden and his administration, is the practice to catch and release migrants who cross the border illegally? According to the Biden administration and all information I can find, I'd have to say no. They deny that they have a catch and release policy. But what they do have is not a zero tolerance policy. Zero tolerance policies are what Trump had. Trump put those in place in 2018, and that meant anyone crossing the border, any adult crossing the border illegally without going through the asylum process, the asylum seeking process, was considered to be breaking American law, and they were sent to jail. They were detained. Now, you may recall hearing about families being ripping apart families, separating families. Well, that was because it was a zero tolerance policy. So if you come across the border and you have your children with you, you're breaking the law, you're going to jail, and meanwhile your children are going somewhere else. The children aren't going to go to jail with you. That's how families became separated. There were too many migrants being detained, too many migrants being caught illegally crossing the border. It was just unmanageable. Federal immigration law allows DHS to parole migrants rather than detain them on a case-by-case basis. So that's what they started to do. They started to parole them. So why did they make the change? Ultimately, it became a humanitarian crisis because there were people overcrowded in detention centers. They just did not have the space to house all those people who were being detained. Zero tolerance policy. Though some argue that's what we need, there's not enough room for zero tolerance. You can't jail the world. There is no room to jail every migrant, every immigrant, every person crossing the border illegally cannot be detained for prosecution. It's impossible. So why are people upset about the catch and release? Well, they think the catch and release policy is one that encourages illegal immigration. Get into the country, even if I'm caught, you're going to let me go. Get into the country, even if I'm caught, you're going to let me go. Florida and 19 other Republican states are challenging in court the policy of catch and release. Migrants from Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba being detained, they want them detained and deported instead of released after detainment right here in the United States. And given their word that they'll come back to go to court to see if they actually do qualify for asylum. Not everybody shows back up, obviously, to get the verdict on their court case. The Remain in Mexico agreement. The United States and Mexico came to an agreement that while asylum seekers are being processed, while their court cases are being heard, they are to remain in Mexico. Joe Biden, his administration, challenged this policy. They suspended this policy. This policy was in place under the Trump administration. On January 21st, when Joe Biden took office, one of his first acts was to end the policy of Remain in Mexico. On his first day in office, in January 2021, President Biden suspended the policy, allowing many migrants to return to the U.S. to pursue their asylum cases. They notified those people who had applied for asylum, yes, we're waiting for your case to be heard. Until then, you can come back to America until it's a verdict. So they came back to America to wait. Joe Biden went to court to have the authority to end this policy of Remain in Mexico. So there can be no question. Did Joe Biden end this policy? Yes, he did. He ran on it and he fought to do it. He fought to end the Remain in Mexico policy. Took it all the way to the Supreme Court. The last and final reason of my list, because there are other reasons that I think are of lesser impact on this process, on the migrant issue, but feel free to send me what you have. But according to my records, according to my research, the last one is the border wall construction that was halted. So when Trump was in office, as we all know, he ran on build a wall, build a big, beautiful wall. When Trump left office, Biden shut it down. No more big, beautiful wall was being built. He didn't dismantle the wall that was built, but he ceased construction of the wall. So one of my first things was I looked to see, was this effective? Did building a wall serve as a deterrent? Did it stop illegal immigration? What happened? Now, we all know Trump supporters, by and large, supported this. In fact, one of the main reasons why Trump supporters were Trump supporters was because he was going to build a wall. In fact, they put their money where their mouth was and helped him raise money to build a wall. They thought it would enhance national security and reduce illegal immigration. Mixed results. Effectiveness is a matter of debate. Here's what we know. Slowed crossings. At a minimum, walls significantly slow down would-be illegal immigrants attempting to climb over the tunnel, to climb over the wall or the tunnel under it. So yeah, it's a wall. And a wall will slow you down because you can't go through the wall. So you either got to go over the wall, you got to go under the wall, but it's a wall. You got to deal with the wall. So yes, there was some effectiveness to having barriers. Now remember, some areas where there was a wall erected, there were no barriers at all. So yeah, having a physical structure where there was no structure, yeah, that provided a lot more structure. And then there were areas that already did have structure but did not have as high or as impermeable structure, as large a structure as an actual wall. So then it helped a little less. Border Patrol assistance. Walls made it easier for Border Patrol to apprehend migrants as they try to enter the country illegally. So yeah, if you got to go over the wall, it takes you time, and taking you time helps border agents be able to catch you. So it helped somewhat, okay? Helped somewhat by slowing you down, and helped somewhat to make Border Patrol's lives a little bit easier and able to apprehend more folks. There was a temporary decline in 2020 of crossings due to the wall, but other factors also played into it. So other things are being done that also impacted it. So you can't really tell, was it the wall that helped a little bit with the numbers, or was it some other mechanism where we just having more Border Patrol agents? Was it the weather? What was going on? The wall was never fully built. So we never really know fully how much of an impact the wall would have because we don't have a wall. Some places still don't have a wall. Legal battles. Courts challenge funding and executive orders related to the wall. Kept having to go to court over the wall. Resource allocation. Critics argue that funds could be better spent elsewhere. Why are we going to get a wall when we can use drones? Why are we going to use drones when we could just hire more Border Patrol? There were different schools of thought about what would be the most effective in curtailing, stopping, shutting down illegal immigration. Not legal immigration. Illegal immigration. Environmental impact. Animals can't migrate. Some animals don't fly. Some animals that migrate are animals on foot, and those animals can't get through the wall to do their migration process. Therefore, it's an impact on wildlife. That makes sense? In summary, while the wall had some impact, its overall effectiveness remains a subject of debate and ongoing discussion. The debate extends beyond physical barriers to broader immigration policies and humanitarian considerations. So those three policies, based on my research, are the most often cited policies that were reversed or implemented by Joe Biden's administration that impact immigration, that are part of the migration crisis. And those are, just for review, catch and release, remain in Mexico, and the border wall construction. All right, guys, I'm going to continue to cover this topic. I'm going to try to cover it from a position of provide you with the data, provide you with the information. It's not my job to make your mind up for you. It's not my job to sensationalize this. It's not my job to use buzzwords and try to catch you up, to touch your feelings, to get you riled up. But it is my job to provide you with knowledge. And it's your job to make up your own mind. So I ask you, did Joe Biden cause a migration crisis? Or did Joe Biden's administration's actions add to the migration crisis? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So is guilt, responsibility, and duty. My name's Tim Black. This has been another edition of Calling It Out. I'll see you on the next one.